Hi, it's Julia from Julia K Art Studio, and today I am so excited. It's the first real playtime I have had with this Pretty Potion set. So the Pretty Potions inspired by the amazing work that J.K. Rowling did in Harry Potter. And if you don't know Harry Potter, then wow, really? No, I actually didn't really get into Harry Potter until about 3 years ago. Yeah, I'm 26 right now. Yeah, but once I did actually consume the books, because I feel like that is what I did, I listened to the audiobook recorded by Stephen Fry, and boy, did I consume those books. I felt so inspired by so much of it, but especially now when I have this little business where I make handmade paint, I felt like I was so inspired by this whole potion making idea of making potion, mixing together different stuff to get another, and then that potion you use as something for something, which is just what we do when we make paint. We mix the binder and the honey and the pigment and maybe some other pigment, and that in of itself is a finished product, but it's just the beginning, because then you make stuff with that. And I don't know, something about that connection made me really inspired, and I've been thinking about this for about a year, I would say. It takes quite a long time to make a watercolor, so but yeah, I was so inspired by it, and when I finally decided I was going to go along with this idea, it took some time to decide what potions did I want to take inspiration from, and when I had decided that, what pigments should I use to get these potions to come across. And it's always like that when you have an idea that is based on somebody else's idea. I want there to be a clear connection, but at the same time, she uses her words to show you the idea and get that idea across. And later came the movies, but I'm trying to get the idea that I got from her vision. So obviously I have a different interpretation of that, and then trying to use just pigments to get that across was definitely a challenge, and it was so much fun to do and work with that. So what I want to do with this video is sort of trying to show you using my words, which is painting, so my images, I suppose, is how I picture the potions, and yeah, sort of the symbols that I sort of connect with them. So what I did was I got these pieces of paper, and they are about 7 by 9 centimeters, and I used a watercolor pencil and just drew out, used a masking fluid where I wanted to preserve the white of the paper, and then just went to town. And just like it was very difficult for some of the colors to decide on what pigment and what qualities I wanted, it was when I sat down to do this video where I wanted to visually show with a very clear icon or element to represent the different potions. I had a little bit of a hard time doing that for some of them. Some of them I knew straight away what I wanted. For example, the Polyjuice, I knew that I wanted some change, so I very quickly got this idea of having a face where you see half of one person's face next to another. So in this case, an elderly man with a long beard next to a sort of youngish woman. And I mean, for that, it was pretty clear. But for the ones that wasn't, you have to really challenge yourself. And because even though I've been working with this set for so long and I have this very clear idea of what I wanted, to be very precise and specific, it's a challenge. So yeah, I feel like the project I did here really made me go even deeper into this sort of little set that I have created, and it makes me appreciate it a lot more. Now, the set comes with 6 colors. I chose 6 for a few reasons. I think it's a good number. It also typically very easy to, I mean, it's not that expensive, so it's quite easy to afford. It's also quite easy to store. In my shop, I have these little tins, and you can see the paints I'm using are in one of those tins, so 6 fit perfectly into that. And then also because the potions I wanted to use were 6, so so yeah, that is the reason. Now, when it comes to the specific potions, I knew from this get-go that I wanted like Felix Felicis, I wanted the Veritas Serum, and I wanted Amortentia and Polyjuice. I mean, those potions are very well known in the Potter world, I suppose you can call it. And I felt very early on I knew how they looked. Did that mean that the colors that you now see, that you now can buy, are how they first looked? No, they have changed, as a lot of things do. But yeah, I knew I wanted those. And then I wanted to have Skelligro, and I knew I wanted to make it white, but I also know that it wasn't that obvious, or that clear to me anyway, that I would go with that color. White is traditionally not a very good color to use in watercolor. I mean, when you look and you take a step back and try to see, like, watercolor is a transparent medium. That is why we're painting watercolor. If you want an opaque medium, then you tend to use acrylic or gouache. So why should you go with a watercolor that is opaque and white, you know? But in the end, I decided that this set of watercolors that I have made, inspired by the potions, they're not meant to be your everyday colors to mix and get every colors. This is for fun. This is to convey that idea of inspiration that I got, and that way I could sort of convince myself that I was doing the right thing. So yeah, that is how I how I decided that Skelligro can be white. It's fine. It's okay. Let's move on. Okay. So that was like, I had my first color ready. I had the Skelligro. Now, the Felix Felicis is, I think, one of the prettiest colors I have ever made. And I know I say that about a lot of colors. But I sort of think that the title of prettiest color I've ever made can go to many. So let's just be clear on that. But yeah, so what I wanted was, I mean, it's described in the book. Felix Felicis is like liquid luck. It's gold. And I really thought about this, and I have a few golds in my store already, and I do like them a lot, but I felt like I didn't want to make a color I already had, and I wanted it to be something a bit more special than just a gold metallic that you can get anywhere. So I was thinking about it for quite some time, and then I found this chameleon pigments. Now these pigments, they sort of change colors, and they are very, very pretty and so expensive. So I decided to order a few to try out, and when I looked at one of them who has this sort of bluish, greenish, I don't know how to describe it, but the shimmer particle has this sort of bluish, greenish shift to them, and I was hooked. They don't look like regular metallics, they're not interference, there's something in between, and they are just magical. So that is what I decided to mix a very yellow gold together with that. And from afar, when you just look at it, it looks gold. But then when you come closer and you can see that sort of shift and dance in the color because of that light blue, green, almost pink sometimes, and purple. Yeah, anyway, so with that, I was hooked. I was like, that is the prettiest ever. So yeah, that is how I decided on Felix Felicis. Another color that I had a little bit of trouble deciding, and also a bit of trouble when we talk about the project here with the little paintings. As you can see, I'm painting feathers, but yeah, I had a little bit of a hard time coming up with that, and I was like, what can you use to visually represent truth? This is a potion where that is described as clear, that you can easily pour it into something else, and the one who consumes it won't notice that it is consuming the truth potion. So I wanted something clear, but when we talk about watercolor, if we're talking clear, that is called water. So I was thinking, I knew I wanted something green or blue. For me, those are clear, honest colors, really. And yeah, so I had a bit of a try. I was, for quite some time, I was almost set on using terre verte, which is a very light, cold green that granulates a lot. And I was really liking that idea. I felt like it was fitting pretty well with the set. But then one day, I got some new pigments home and I was trying them out. And I tried out this light blue metallic pigment that had gold interference in it. Now, if you don't know what interference pigments are, interference pigments means that it interferes with the light. So if you look at a blue pigment on white background, it looks blue, but if you have a blue interference pigment, it will look white on a white piece of paper, and it would look blue on a dark piece of paper. It has some it depends on how the light hits the different particles. So this, so the Vertaserum, the pigment is in that, has that very light metallic blue and then gold interference. So on white paper, it will look light blue. And then when you put that paint on something that is darker, it looks gold. And yeah, I felt like that was just so perfect, you know? Like, it doesn't really have that big tinting strength. It's not a strong color. But then, when you pull it over something that is dark, the light will shine through. I don't know. Is that too deep? I can go deeper if you want to. But yeah, so that is like, that is perfect for Truth Serum. I felt like that was perfect. So, and then I decided to go with the feathers. I felt like they were light and airy. I liked their thing, and I honestly couldn't come up with anything else that represent truth. I tried to Google a bit, but I got these, like, you know, scales, and for me that is not really truth. So anyway, so the fourth color in this set is represented by looking up at a clear starlit sky, and that is the color that we call Drought of Peace. Now, a few of these colors I have sent out as samples, and Drought of Peace has been one of them, and I have got a few questions, and I have just written piece on the dot card because I can't write draft of piece. It won't fit. I'm sorry. I try to make that clear. But yeah, first I was completely set on this color to be the death potion. But the more I thought about it, the more macabre I think it sounded, and and it doesn't sound very good, I have to say. But for me, the draft of peace isn't that far from death potion, in that I imagine death to be something very calm and still, very peaceful. I don't know, that is how I view death anyway. So yeah, but to the color draft of peace, it's indigo base, so synthetic indigo, so very, very strong in tinting strength. And then we have a very bright blue metallic shimmer into that. And I love indigo. That is one of my favorite colors. If I ever get new stuff, so watercolor gouache, colored pencil, watercolor pencil, whatever, one of the first colors I always get is indigo, because I feel like it's a neutral. You can do so much with it, because indigo typically has a very strong tinting strength. You can get the whole spectrum. So for me, I really like that. I feel very calm with that dark, deep blue. So yeah, okay. Moving right along, I suppose, to color number 5, which is Amortentia. This is one of the colors that I was thinking a bit more like in terms of how it's described, or I should say the lack of description, truly, because this potion is mentioned in the book. It's mentioned how one of the characters in the book reacts to it, or can smell, and then feeling the smell of the person that she loves. But there isn't a clear description of the potion as a physical being, So I felt like I had a bit of freedom to decide what I wanted. And I decided to go very traditional with the bright magenta with the pink metallic in it. Now, is that very too on the nose? Yeah, maybe. But then when I go back and think about it, I'm still here, I'm sorry, but from where I'm standing, reddish or pinkish shades has pretty much always been associated with blood, right? If that is liquid blood coming out of you, or the rush of blood that you can physically see on somebody. Before, when we started using makeup, we wanted to have pinker or redder lips and cheeks, because that showed that you had more blood, you were more vibrant, more alive. And I think that is why we still associate red and pink shades to love, because if you like somebody, you might blush a little. If you kiss somebody, your lips will go darker because you've added pressure. Yeah, okay. But you know what I'm going with it. And also, red and pink has traditionally been masculine colors, which is I think a surprise for many who isn't as big of a nerd when it comes to colors I am. But these colors have been traditionally masculine color, because it symbolizes life and vitality, masculinity, aggression, that kind of stuff. And and typically feminine lady colors, then I apparently can't say feminine whatever, has been blue. And from what I have heard, it's that was to symbolize the ocean. And I was like, oh, that is pretty. And then somebody said, yeah, because the woman is exchangeable as the ocean. I was like, that is almost true too, actually. So yeah. Anyway, yeah, but to go back to Amortentia, so I had this really strong, vibrant color, and I really like it. And what I like about it is that it has more of a cool magenta tone to it, because I didn't want it to be like sugary pink. So it still has a bit of attitude. That even though you're in love, you still have some, yeah. So that is the reasoning behind that. The last color in this set is the color that represents Polyjuice Potion. Now, the Polyjuice Potion, I knew straight away. What pigment I was going to use. I knew straight away what I wanted to paint with, and all of that. So the Polyjuice Potion is a potion you brew together with something from another person, and then when you drink this, you will look like this other person. And it's been described in the book as looking very muddy and not very pleasant. And I mean, I am all for muddy watercolors. I love muddy watercolors. I like that. I know that not everybody does. So when I was thinking about this, I was like, I know exactly what pigment I'm going to use. I've been longing to use it in a set, but I haven't had a set to put it in. And now it's like, this is perfect. So the pigment is, you can actually see it. I'm using it here together with Felix Felicis to paint around my little dragon skeleton. That is Caput Mortuum, which is a very, very old pigment. The word Caput Mortuum may sound a little bit strange, and that roughly translates from Latin to dead head. Yeah. It's a very old pigment. It's from the PR101 family. That is, you can find so many colors from that single pigment, depending on how that pigment is being treated. And yeah, it is so cool. It has a very brown red but more to purple tone. It's very strong. You can get very pretty granulations, and just like with the Drought of Peace that has indigo, Caput Mortuum is very fun to play with because it has such a strong tinting strength. You can get so many values from it. And that is why I didn't want to mix it with anything. I was considering mixing some shimmer or something into it, but in the end I feel like this color is so cool and so underrated on its own that I just want to lift it out. I feel like it's a beautiful, beautiful color that is being hidden a bit, like the bright yellows and reds and blues and all those synthetic pigments that we have today are amazing, but I really wanted a chance for just Caput Mortuum to stand on its own and just stand there and say, I'm still here and I am still perfect, you know? So yeah, I feel like it's kind of perfect, and because it has such long history and all of that, I felt like it fitted so well with the Harry Potter sort of theme or thinking. Something that I love about the Harry Potter series that J.K. Rowling have created is that it's not just a dip into another world. You can fully immerse yourself into this world because she has the history going back generations, and I really love that, and I sort of want to represent that in this set too, using newer pigment and older too, using these new synthetic mica imitations the synthetic indigo, but then also going back using these earth pigments that we still use, that was used to paint the caves, you know. I just find that so inspiring in a way, and that it comes together in this sort of impossible looking set. So yeah, I would say that is my thinking about how I created the set and why I chose the different potions the way I did. Now, looking at the set, it looks pretty fun, I would say, objectively. Is it a set that you will have a lot of use out of? No. Is it a set that can mix a lot of different good colors? No. Can you mix colors? Yes. But it is truly just for fun. This set is meant to bring a little bit of that magic, that special feeling, and I wanted to really to have a concept with that. Now, I did feel sometimes when I was working on it that I felt a bit of pressure, I should say, to stay true. And I think that the Harry Potter series is so well known by so many people, and we all, because it is a book or a book series, we all have very clear images of how different things will look or should look. And I sort of feel like I haven't grown up with Harry Potter. Like I said, I discovered Harry Potter when I was like 24 or 25, which means I have a completely different look, and I see Harry Potter from a completely different viewpoint than what you traditionally would, because I am a bit older. But I sort of wanted, when I started this project, I wanted to make it as true that you could, like, you would directly see and understand what I was thinking. But the more I worked on the project, the more I realized that this is my interpretation of something else. So the more I thought about that, the more I came to peace and sort of felt free to do what I wanted. There was nobody saying you should do this or that, more than what I said to myself. So now when I look at it, I'm very proud of what I've created. I feel like it is something that I have created, based on inspiration, and it's not just something that I've taken and made. It's something that I have created based on something else, and I think that is really fun to do that. And I hope that if you really like Harry Potter, which I pretty much assume that you do if you're looking at this, but that you can feel that you can sort of recognize it for what it is. Now I realize that there will be a lot of opinions when you do something like this, when you sort of have this thing that belongs to so many people. And maybe you say, no, that potion should not be there, you should have used this one, you should not use that color, it should have been this one. And yeah, maybe you're right. Maybe I should have used a different pigment for another color, or swapped out one potion for another. But yeah, here we are. So yeah, that is how I thought about it anyway. And yeah, so when I had done this, I spent quite a lot of time thinking like how I wanted to present it. I felt like this is a big set. I've spent so much time. I want to present it as good as I possibly can. I wanted to make it really like, it's special, you know, and I want to sort of give that feeling with the kit or with the set when I'm shipping it out. And so I knew I wanted to have them half pounds in a tin, as you can see here on the screen, because typically that is how I sell sets, that you can have it in a tin or without. You can choose. But then I also found these metal tins that were divided, and I was like, oh, I could pour them straight into those. And I felt like, oh gosh, that is such a clever original idea. Why don't other people who make handmade colors, why don't they use this? Well, I'll tell you why. They look amazing, I have to say. They look really amazing now that I'm done. But they were a pain in the backside to make, because the anxiety level was way too high. Because if you don't drop the color in correctly, you can ruin the whole thing. So yeah, I was looking through it, and I was like going to order some stuff, and I was like, should I order more of them and do it again? And I was like, no, don't do it. I do like them. I didn't mess up too badly. I could rescue the ones I did mess up. But yeah, it was, I mean, with a half pan, you work with one color at a time, and then you put it away. But with these sort of long and narrow pan tins, where it's already like they're all in there, yeah, if you mess up, you will mess up all over them. So yeah. So anyway, that is 2 ways to get them. You can get them half pans in a tin with magnets, or in the sort of pre-poured in a tin. You can also get them individually. I wanted to make that available right away. Typically, if I have a set coming out, I have them coming out 1 month as a set, and then the month after that they come out as singles. But here I wanted them to come out single right away, because I know that I have got so many lovely comments about this set, and people who say they're so excited, and I don't want there to be that they feel like they're missing out just because I try to grab more money and trying to get people to buy the whole set if they just want 2 or 3 colors. So I have them available in half pan and full pan as singles. And like I said, I have put a lot of thought into this. I also have dot cards. Now this is something I have been thinking about for quite some time, and the same thing with pouring straight into the pan, or straight into the tin, I should say. I was like, can I do this? Because if you mess up, then you have messed up the whole card. But I decided to do that, and the card is A6 card. On the back side you have some information about why I created this set, and then also some information about the different colors. And then on the front there are 6 sample dots of the colors. So you get a sample dot of Skelliger, Felix Felicis, Veritaserum, Drought of Peace, Amortentia, and Polyjuice. And I really wanted to do that because I know that buying a whole set is quite expensive, and maybe you don't like them. Maybe you hardly ever use metallic paints, and you're like, I don't want to buy the whole thing, but you still want to try it. So I created the cards, and I'm really happy with them. They are wrapped in waxed paper, so they are safe shipping, and also when you get them, if you re-wet them and everything, you can just put the waxed paper on top of it again, and that will protect them, and it won't get messy all over. So I really wanted to make sure that I made something that in theory everybody could afford. Everybody could get a little piece of this collection if they wanted to. So yeah. Yeah. So that is what's on offer March 1st. Yeah, I'm really excited. Now, maybe I should talk a little bit of what I have been doing on the screen. So I wanted to physically show what I was thinking about the colors that I've created. And like I've mentioned before, some of the potions I felt like it was no problem. I knew straight away what I wanted to symbolize that potion. I knew that Felix Felicis was liquid luck, and I wanted to have the 4-leaf clover, and I imagined the whole meadow of the clovers, and I really like that. I also knew straight away that I wanted Draught of Peace to be that feeling when you lay on the forest floor looking up on the full moon, that peaceful, the world is silent type of feel. So that wasn't too hard. When it came to Skelligrew, it was a lot of fun. I did some thinking, and Skelligrew is a potion that will make your bones grow out. And I was thinking about how I could show that, but in the end I decided, because this summer I had a bit of an obsession, let's call a spade, with drawing dinosaur skulls. And I did quite a lot of them. And I love that. It was so much fun. So I decided I want to do that again, but I wanted to have it sort of dinosaur, but also sort of dragon skull. So I added some like spikes coming out of the head. And I love that. So that is what I chose for visually representing Skelligrew. And like I've mentioned before, the Veritaserum was a bit of a tricky one, but in the end I decided to go with the feathers. I painted the feathers and also the dinosaur skull on grey paper, just so I can use the white. And on the feathers, the Veritaserum, I wet the paper and then let that white flow, and I love the effect, and then dripping in some Felix Felicis. I love the background for that. It is so, so pretty. I feel like that really, the feeling of lightness, I really like that. So yeah. The Amortentia, just like I had quite a lot of thought if I should use that pink. I was like, obviously the love is like a heart, or maybe people kissing or something, but then I wanted to have something a bit less obvious. I know, me saying that, but I decided to go with these sort of a couple of hands, like they are reaching for each other, or maybe one is pulling the other one up, I don't know, but I really like that sort of hands. It doesn't have to be two lovers. It could just be two friends or something. That I wanted. It's something to represent love in a non love way, I was going to say, but in a way where love can be a very different thing, or a very universal thing, I suppose you should say. So that is what I came up with that, and to really like show the power of love or something, I made a dark background with the potion of Draught of Peace, and then I dripped in Felix Felicis, that gold, around the hands, so it sort of looks like they're shining, and yeah, I really like that. And then the last one I did was the Polyjuice one. And like I said before, I knew straight away what I wanted to do here. I wanted that transformation from one person to another, and yeah, so I decided to go with this old man, and then on one side and on the other the younger woman, and I really like how that turned out. And yeah, I think that is such a fun idea to do that, and I had a lot of fun painting, because I hardly ever draw old men, so this was fun. But yeah, so that is how I visualize the different potions, and I feel like these could be those labels sitting on the proper potions. If I had big potion bottles, I feel like these could sit and represent them. I also like that that they look sort of like tarot cards. So what I did was I painted with watercolor, and then I went over with you can see here with a dip pen, and I used dark sepia because I wanted to have something with a strong outline, but I didn't want a black. So I decided to go with sepia. I think sepia is a very good neutral color for outlining stuff if you don't want to use black. But I really like that with the dip pen you can get some variation in your strokes, and I tried not to be perfect, which is a bit hard because you want them to look as good as possible, especially when you do a project that is being shared all over the internet and sort of going to represent the product you have created in order to sell that product. You want them to look really good. But I tried to be quite loose with it, and I'm really happy with the result. And I like that they look like old tarot cards. They're also mentioned in the book. I mean, I'm thinking about, you know, when they are sitting up in the tower with the professor who sees into the future, Sybil Trelawney. I love that character. Okay. So yeah, I'm really happy with how these pieces turned out and the set, and it's definitely been like a labor of love to pull all of this together. And now when I'm recording this is a few days before the shop update, and normally I don't feel very nervous about a shop update. I did in the beginning, but now I definitely do. I feel like I don't really know how it's going to be received. It's such a big set I've been working for such a long time on, and I just want it to be received well. And I think that is true for everything that you have poured so much of yourself into. So yeah, and even though I'm already working on other colors, on other sets or collections, and in some way I have left this behind because I'm not actively working on making the colors. I mean, they are done, they are wrapped, they are in the drawer ready to be shipped out. But at the same time, it's not done, you know? And I feel like that is one of those things I really don't like about making and selling watercolor paints. It's that big gap between when I'm working on it, when it's actually happening. So yeah. But here you can see all the potions and how I visualize, or how I think they should be represented, or how they could be represented anyway. So yeah, I just want to thank you so very much if you've been watching this whole video, that you like the set or the colors, and I would love to hear you, what you think about them. So yeah, thank you ever so much for watching, and I hope you have the best of days.